Hello, I'm your host Jim McClean. Welcome back to another episode of the BanterFlix movie review show. Let's see what movies we'll be talking about tonight. We'll be reviewing the Bikeriders and the Exorcism, which are both out in cinemas now. Our pick of the streams is the first Omen, which is available on Disney+. And our Pride season concludes with the 2018 feature, Giant Little Ones. So that's what we've lined up for you this week. Joining me in the studio here in Belfast is Joe Mc Elroy.
Good evening, Jim.
And Tim Burden.
Hey,
So as always, we have packed show, loads we're going to try and get through. So I think we'll kick things off with a bit of movie news.
Hey, Laura!
What on earth was that, John? It was Christine.
Christine is dead, Laura.
You're sad. You're so sad, and there's no need to be. I've seen her. My sister's psychic.
You can't contact people, can you? She's trying to get in touch with us.
So that's a clip of Don't Look Now. Fantastic film I absolutely love by Nick Rogue, and the reason why we're playing that, of course, last week, just after we'd finished recording the show here in Belfast, we heard the sad news that Donald Sutherland had sadly passed away. Fantastic actor, love him. I mean, there's so many films within his back catalogue, and the one thing I would say before I give you both the opportunity to share your thoughts on him as an actor and some of your favourite performances, I would recommend anyone seek. I think it's still available on YouTube. Mark Cousins, I think, has went back through his own back catalogue. I think it's from Scene by Scene, his interview with Donald. I'm not quite sure, probably in the 90s, I would say, maybe early noughties. Great interview, great actor. Don't Look Now, one of my favourites. I guess maybe younger viewers would be more familiar with him from The Hunger Games as the villain of sorts in that film. But Tim, I'll come to you first. This was sad news. It broke, I think, just when we were watching the football.
Yes, late last week.
Yeah,
no, absolutely. I mean, he had an incredible presence. He was always something to look out for. Like if he was just like a supporting actor or a cameo, like, I mean, the best cameo probably JFK. Great example, he was Mr. X. So there's that. But I mean, yeah, I mean, you mentioned Don't Look Now, but even films like Backdraft. I mean, it's an old film, and but it's aged well, I think. Anyway, Donald Sutherland, yeah, absolutely a great presence and such a MASH. So many great performances, and how could we forget Kelly's Heroes? One of the best performances, I think everyone would agree. I
was thinking even of Invasion of the Body Snatchers as well.
Oh yeah, I forgot that. I mean, that's a fantastic film. Remember that final scene? Oh, I mean, that is.
Yeah.
So it's still haunting. I think it haunts everyone.
Joe, your own thoughts? I know Tim's mentioned a few notable performances in films. I've mentioned a few. What about you?
Yeah, funny when Tim mentioned JFK. That's the first thing I posted when he died, because that scene, it's just iconic within that film, and a film full of great performances, his really stands out. And when you actually sit and watch the scene itself, it's pure conspiracy talk from him. Any other actor who would deliver that, you would just dismiss it and go, that's just ridiculous. But there's just something compelling in his performance and how he convinces you to think this is real or this could have happened, where you're like, well, hang on a second, maybe it did. Just for a second, it really draws you in, and that's sort of the summation of him as an actor. He had that ability just to draw the audience in and make any sort of character he played believable. Like you said, he spanned so many different genres. Another film we didn't mention is Clute, but yeah, he was just such a powerhouse of an actor, and a real presence on the screen. He's going to be really missed, I think.
Without a doubt, and we didn't even mention Space Cowboys. There's another film. I know that it's silly and cheesy, but when you give great actors and the likes of Donald Sutherland cheesy material, they make it their own. What can I say? I have a bit of a soft spot for Space Cowboys. Give it a watch over the weekend, viewers. So now we're going to move on and talk about some movies that we've actually seen. But before we do, this week trailer broke for Robert Eggers' latest feature. Joe, I know you're very excited to talk about that. So before we move on, let's play a little clip of that and hear your thoughts.
Professor, my dreams grow darker. Does evil come from within us or from beyond?
He is coming. He is coming.
So, Joe, that's a look at Nosferatu. Excited about this? Robert Eggers' latest feature. I know you're a fan of this director and his back catalogue, so has this caught your attention?
No, it's awful. No, of course, I absolutely love it. Like, I think it was always been a passion project for him to have made it. Like, even since he made The Witch and The Lighthouse, in between those films, and even The Northman, he was always talking, I really want to make this project, I really want to make it. And from the first images that you see, you can tell he really is going all in on this here and just applying his sort of gothic style to it. That both pays homage to not only the original, but I think even Herzog's. I could see a bit of Herzog's Nosferatu in that. And just the way this trailer's structured, the fact that you don't see, Nosferatu himself, and just the single images alone are enough to really draw you in and make you think, yes, I really want to see it, even though it's out on Christmas Day.
Christmas is a great time for gothic horror, and maybe that says more about me than anything. I definitely got, Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula vibes from the trailer, so there's a lot of nods there. Tim, now we're going to move on. I don't know how big a horror fan you are, but are you intrigued by this? We've made you look at the trailer, so hopefully you haven't been too terrified. Are you excited about this?
Oh, definitely. Robert Eggers has a very unique vision, so it's always interesting to watch his films. Wasn't a huge fan of The Northman, but I do definitely appreciate The Witch and also The Lighthouse. But I think it's funny you say about Coppola's Dracula. I think there was one scene when the carriage was riding up to the castle. That was very much wow. It literally looks like that terrific, very glossy scene. But I mean, it looks like it's going to be very, very intensely violent, which we know, Robert Eggers has a kind of penchant for. So there's going to be, I think there's going to be certainly a lot of families perhaps not seeing this on Christmas Day, but there might be a few revelers who would more appreciate something a bit edgier.
If Christmas is your thing, and as I say, St. Stephen's Day, Boxing Day, you have Nosferatu to look forward to. That's out in cinemas later this year. Let's move on and talk about some movies we have seen.
Hey. I'm Benny.
Hello? Well, so what are we doing here? Just, shooting the breeze?
Yeah, I guess.
So that's a look at the Bikeriders out in cinema now. Tim, you're going to be leading on this. You've seen it. Well, Joe, I know you've seen it as well, but we're trying something different this week on the show. You're going to be talking about this film. Don't know about you. I was in a bike gang when I was younger. That was a BMX. And I didn't have Austin Butler and I didn't have Tom Hardy hanging about. Definitely not Jodie Comer. But yeah, it's out in cinemas now. Easy rider vibes. What do you think of the film?
Yes. Well, it's funny you say BMX club. I was more kind of chopper, remember those big choppers there, the big wheel at the back and the small at the front.
Regardless, cool. Tim, we look good.
We thought we did. The Bikeriders does look good, so that's a great segue. And, this is a film where you know that the director has this this passion for kind of a gritty kind of realism, and he obviously loves that kind of Americana, but not the kind of Norman Rockwell Americana, more the gritty side of things. You got Jodie Comer, and she's stunning. We know she's a fantastic actress. The film is very much told through her eyes, so that's a clever move on this part, because then it gives a kind of clear narrative. You basically have these bike gangs set around Chicago, late 60s, early 70s, Yeah, certainly, as you say, Easy Rider vibe. You know, the bike gangs are, I suppose, symbolic of this culture clash between different societies, because we know it was a massive change in people's mindsets and everything in that era of America, but also, I suppose, over here in some respects. It just happened there first, as it often does with America. So you've got Austin Butler, who plays Benny. He's very much, he's very mysterious and quite quiet. Jodie Comer is infatuated by him. It isn't hard to see why.
Rightfully so. Literally, from the moment we see him, we can see the attraction, and it's attraction on both sides.
It is, yes. The feeling is definitely mutual. But the problem is, I think, Jodie is really torn because, well, as is Benny, because he does love her, but the thing is, if he leaves this bike gang, of which he's a member of, I should say Tom Hardy's the ringleader of this bike gang, and he is, as aggressive as ever, but he does it so well. And I can see why it's number one. It's number one at the cinema right now. So it has had a successful opening week, which is good to see, because it's one of these films that's been embraced by independent art house cinemas as well as multiplexes, and to see that crossover is always good to see, because I think sometimes the multiplex cinema goer may give it a chance, like they did with Pretty Things or other films which often would just be selected to the independent chains. So Bikeriders, 100% I would recommend. And the only thing I would say, it is under 2 hours, which is good, as long as you don't include trailers and ads, but that's a whole different story. But the only thing is, I think it does drift a bit because it spends too much time on very uninteresting characters. The way the film, we are obviously involved in the film and learning about each character, but some characters really are a bit kind of dull, to be blunt.
Well, hopefully they don't hear you say that. Hopefully they don't hear you say that. But impressive cast, I have to say, all around. We've got the likes of Norman Reedus in smaller roles. We have Michael Shannon as well. Yeah. You've mentioned Tom Hardy. It's, for me, just personally great to see Tom Hardy back doing these type of roles. There's that kind of Marlon Brando physicality that he brings that is wasted. I'm sorry, Tom, if you're watching. It's wasted in the likes of the Venom movies and stuff like that. It reminds me of stuff I loved him when he did movies like Lawless with Shia LaBeouf, and that kind of is, I think, is an interesting companion piece. Austin Butler, Dreamboat, Elvis, what's not to like? But for me, front and center, Jodie Comer is a cinematic chameleon, without a doubt. I love Jodie Comer. She's great. Her accent in this is fab. Anyone who's seen Killing Eve will know she's great at that. Now, Joe, I know you have seen The Bikeriders. I'm sure you're busting to talk about it, but that's not the film we're going to be asking you to review this week, because another film's out in cinemas at the minute is The Exorcism with Russell Crowe. Sadly, he's not the Pope's exorcist this time round, but that's out in cinemas now. We sent you to go see that film. Before we hear your thoughts, let's play a clip.
Wow.
Bad, huh?
So what's with the stage? Have you forgotten what kind of movie we're making?
Set. Action.
Lord have mercy.
All kinds of messed up stuff happened when they were making movies like The Omen or The Exorcist. And the guy your dad replaced? Everything's cursed.
So that's a look at The Exorcism. Joe, if you had told me on paper that a film that is directed and co-written by the son of Jason Miller, who of course starred in The Exorcist, and it's dealing with an actor struggling with his own personal demons, who finds himself, through various reasons, working in a film that may or may not be The Exorcist. Of course, they don't say that. I forget the name of the title that they refer to that film. I would be intrigued. I would be interested. Throw in Russell Crowe, who last year I thought was delightful in The Pope's Exorcist. I had a lot of fun on my cinematic trip to see that, watching him drive around Italy in a Vespa. So, intrigued by this, now we have The Exorcism, a film that, in all honesty, has been kind of hanging about kind of for a while. I think it was going to be potentially maybe sent to maybe a streamer, but now, because of the success of The Pope's Exorcist, we now have it in cinemas. There's been reshoots, X, Y, Z, to make it more exciting, I guess, for viewers. Has it all been worthwhile, Joe?
No. In one word, no. The more you were talking there about the Pope's Exorcist, the more I was thinking, I'd love to watch that again because I had just so much fun with it. Here, there's no fun to be had. Well, to be fair, the subject matter dictates that, you know, it's not going to be a more sort of light-hearted affair when it comes to exorcisms. Like you said, the concept's pretty interesting. You know, you have Jason Miller's son directing it. There's a lot of ties to The Exorcist itself in it. But the problem with it is it does everything wrong that every exorcism film has done wrong since The Exorcist. And it all stems from what the film wants to be, which the answer is it doesn't know. Because there's two routes it sort of takes. One is, you know, a serious drama that deals with trauma and clerical abuse and stuff like that there, where you could do this sort of somber, sort of mysterious thing where you could question, you know, is it his inner demons? Is it actual demonic possession happening? But no, it falls in every cliche under the sun in that direction, and you just lose interest immediately. The other direction is sort of more towards the Pope's Exorcist, where you could have something more fun, over the top, you know, gory, whatever sort of exorcist. It's a valid way of approaching the material as well. And it doesn't really work in that capacity either. It falls in every cliche. So you have two films going in two different directions, following every cliche, making a very boring and dull film that feels twice the length of what it actually is. And in the middle, you have Russell Crowe, who just looks confused as to what he signed up to do, because it's a very bad film, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's not great. I didn't like this. I'll not lie. A little bit disappointed because, as I've mentioned, things about it intrigued me. And then halfway through the film, we get, well, I say halfway through, we have David Hyde Pierce, Niles from Frasier, popping up as a priest. And I'm not going to say I stole it, but I did think it at the time, and I heard Mark Kermode saying something similar, that it goes a little bit Exorcist 3. It feels the need to have an exorcism in its finale. Sorry if that's a spoiler. And it's just silly, over-the-top nonsense. It's not fun. I think we can agree. And Tim, you haven't seen The Exorcism. I think you've maybe dodged a bullet this week when we asked you just to go see the Bikeriders. But I think if you're thinking about going and seeing The Exorcism this weekend, don't. Maybe check out at home The Pope's Exorcist. Yeah, you will indeed have a lot more fun with that movie. So those are two films that are out in cinemas now. I think we'll move from the big screen and check out what we can watch at home.
Tell me, have you ever been to a bar?
No.
A disco?
No.
Anything at all? Because your whole life you wanted to give yourself only to him, right? Look, I know it's scary coming out from under the habit, but look at you. You're a very beautiful girl, Margareta. And you have to understand that about yourself, if only to know what it means to give it up. So, let yourself feel it, okay? Be brave.
So that's a look at the first Omen. It's available now on Disney+. And just before we started to record, you both actually told me, we've all seen this, so this is the first film we can all kind of weigh in here. You both saw this in the cinema. I got to see this for the first time at home on Disney+, just because I missed it, other bits and bobs. And so this is a prequel to Richard Donner's classic, The Omen. Tim, I know you and I were involved in a screening at the Nerve Centre. I know you've been involved with a couple of screenings of The Omen. So I'll come to you first. So as someone who's clearly a fan of that film, this prequel to Donner's film that precedes it, what do you think?
Yeah, well, the good thing about the first Omen is it keeps that same kind of ethos and atmosphere of The Omen, you know, that we had Richard Donner create with the writer David Selzner, and it's one of these stories which is so, I mean, I think it will always stay with us because it's a clever story. And the good thing about the first Omen is it takes that whole concept, but I mean, it does turn it on its head a bit, because we now have essentially a young girl. I mean, the whole Born of a Jackal is still relevant, but in a very different way. I was quite surprised by that little kind of twist, you know. But the atmosphere of the convent and the mood of the film, very well executed. So, it's something which I would certainly urge people to seek out if they've got a subscription.
Yeah, I have to admit, I was pleasantly surprised by this. I didn't love it, but I would say this, interesting things. Here we have a horror film dealing with kind of subject matter that I know might be triggering for some viewers, directed by a woman who, and we will always champion here at BanterFlix, women making horror. And she knows her way around a jump scare. She knows how to execute a scene. As you've mentioned, Tim, it's atmospheric, it's stylish. It was a lot better than what I anticipated. Maybe that was why I didn't risk it when I knew it was out in the cinema. I said, I'll maybe wait till this is home viewing, because I would maybe be tougher in those type of films if I went to the hassle of, getting dressed, having to go, buy my ticket, buy my popcorn, sit down in my cinema seat and not enjoying it. I didn't love it. I thought it was a bit predictable. There's plot points where if you just need to be conscious. And I think you will know there's certain twists that are coming along the way. I think it's like, if you're not trying, if you generally find yourself gasping at some of the plot twists in this, I think you're just not trying, or you're not paying attention. But great performances all round. Bill Nighy, great to see him, even a very small, brief role of Charles Dance. But memorable, I will have to say, at the very start of the film. But yeah, I enjoyed this more than I thought. Maybe I should have risked it and go see it in the cinema. Joe, I remember for Fright Club, you reviewed this and you were really positive. So I'm guessing you're going to be like Tim.
Oh, absolutely. I was going into it, I did have a lot of trepidation. Recently we've had the rebooted Halloween series, the attempted reboot of The Exorcist, and I was going into this like, oh, don't tell me it's going to do the same with the Omen, but I heard good word of mouth, so I was like, okay, I'll take it as it is and I'll see how it goes. And I was really pleasantly surprised by it. It was from that first scene that it really sets up the mood and the ethos, like Tim was saying there, whereby you know exactly what kind of film you're going to get and what tone it's going to take. And it's great in how not only is it reverential to Donner's original, but at the same time it ties in a lot of other horror films. Like there's a moment in it that's lifted straight out of Possession, and just the general atmosphere of dread, and there is like a lingering sense of evil that's permeated throughout it. I just love that there aspect of it, in that I didn't really mind the sort of obvious plot twist, because at the same time, right, it is a prequel, we know where this is going to go in a sense, and at the same time you don't mind the journey because you're sort of locked into how it's going to unfold rather than knowing what's going to unfold. But yeah, the performances all around were great, especially the lead actress Nell Tiger-Free, I think her name is. She was great in it, and even the moments of just horror itself, there's like images in this film that'll just stick with you long after the credits roll. So I think it's probably one of my favourite horror films this year so far.
Okay, high praise indeed. We're only halfway through. It'll be interesting to see what you think come Christmas time, when we're all watching Nosferatu in the cinema for our Christmas dinner. Yeah, I mean, I'm the most down of the three of us here, but even I'm just saying it's fine, it's good. I think if you like horror, there's enough good there. For me, my big take from it is I might be a little bit disappointed by the film. I'm really intrigued to see where this director goes next and see what she does, because she clearly knows what she's doing within the horror genre. So yeah, that's our pick of the streams. We are going to move on now and wrap up this week's show. And all throughout June, we have been celebrating Pride Month, and we've been getting various contributors over the last 4 weeks to pick different films. Some of the films that some we've known, some we haven't. I think it's fair to say none of us had seen the film that's been chosen this week by Mark Corrigan.
She's hot and she wants to spend the night. Couldn't be more perfect, Frankie.
I'm Mark, and this year for Pride I'm recommending that you watch Keith Berman's Giant Little Ones. It's a classic coming-of-age story told through a queer lens about best friends Frankie and Ballas, who one night at a party have an intimate encounter with each other and are left questioning not just their sexuality but their friendship and the dynamic that they've had since they were kids. There's a wonderful subplot with Frankie's dad, played by Kyle MacLachlan, who has come out late in life and is starting a new chapter away from the family home. And Frankie has to try and understand that and navigate it and see if his current situation can be applied as a way of bonding with his dad, who he's become distant with. There's an exploration of gender identity as well with Frankie's other friend, Mouse. So it's a profoundly honest portrayal of teen sexuality and questioning, figuring out yourself. So give it a watch. Happy Pride, and thanks for watching BanterFlix.
Sounds like you had experience with somebody you really loved. Could be that simple. I suggest you just pay attention to who you're drawn to and not worry too much about what to call it.
So that's Mark with his choice, Giant Little Ones. We've all agreed we haven't seen this film. Great choice. And this is the point now where Mr. Burden has made a revelation to me. He hasn't done his homework this week. I know we're just getting ready for the end of term. I feel like the teacher. I'm not angry, Tim. I'm just disappointed.
You're
So
disappointed.
Tim,
That's worse.
you haven't seen this title. So it'll be interesting to see then from listening to Joe and I if we can sell it to you. Because as I say, we hadn't heard this film, Giant Little Ones. Yeah, great choice from Mark. As I say, I hadn't seen this film. Joe, neither had you. I really enjoyed it. Where are you going to weigh in?
I was thinking, it's not a case of even I haven't seen it, I haven't heard of it, to be perfectly honest with you, but it's these kinds of films I really appreciate, whenever they come up in the show, because it's a chance to see something new, know nothing about, so literally went into it cold, and like yourself, I really enjoyed it. I thought the way the character relationships and how it handles gender identity and sexuality, that's done very well, and it's woven quite well into the story. My only sort of gripe with it is that it does fall into a lot of trappings that you get with, sort of indie coming-of-age dramas that you would normally see in like a Sundance festival circuit. But that's a minor quibble, because as a whole, I think it's well acted, it's well executed by the director, and I enjoyed it.
Here we have complexities in terms of family dynamics. You've mentioned there's issues about gender identity. There's also the fact that it's dealing with the trauma of sexual assault as well. That's all in there in the back and within the narrative as well. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really good, solid piece of filmmaking. I know I said it with our previous feature. I want to see other films within this director's back catalogue. I want to see what films he's making now, what films he's going to make in the future. This was like 2018. Yeah, I think it was one of those films that earned its reputation on the festival circuit. Sometimes those go on to find our way into multiplexes and eventually on to Academy Awards, or awards success, I should say. Sometimes, unfortunately, in this bloated world we live in with so much content, they disappear. So it's nice to be able here this week to shine a light on a film like Giant Little Ones. Tim, and we haven't seen the film, Tim, but listening to Joe and I, are you tempted now to seek out Giant Little Ones?
Oh, totally. I mean, that's the exciting thing about film of all different kinds. It's always great discovering new film, and yeah, you've sold it well, definitely.
Perfect. So on that note, that is us pretty much out of time. And normally at this stage in the year, I would be saying, that's us. We shall see you in September. But no, we're going to carry on over July with a series of specials as we look back at some of our favourite summer blockbusters from yesteryear. I know, gentlemen, I'm going to have you both back later in the year, so we're going to be talking about 1984. Get your thinking caps on. Next week, though, we're not going back quite so far. I don't need the Doctor. I don't need a TARDIS. I'm not like Doctor Who. I can just go back, click of the finger like that. We're going to go back to 2014. So you have that to look forward to. But for now, all that's really left for me to do now this evening in the studio is thank my two guests. So thank you very much, Joe.
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks very much, Tim.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for watching. We'll be back next week with the first in our series of specials. But for now, until then, goodbye.